Lethal Weapon 4.
Mel Gibson recently shared an update on Lethal Weapon 5, confirming that he'll be directing it, along with a sequel to The Passion of the Christ. He said both films are next on his list, but it's kind of a toss-up as to which one gets rolling first. "I don't know, and that's the funny thing," Gibson told Comic Book. "There are a lot of hurdles to getting any movie made, not just budget-wise, but there are a million reasons why something happens or doesn't. So right now, it's really just a gamble to see which one kicks off first. It's like trying to figure out whether the chicken or the egg came first." During an appearance on the Inspire Me podcast, Mel Gibson opened up about his role in continuing the iconic Lethal Weapon series, especially after the passing of director Richard Donner. Gibson, who's set to direct Lethal Weapon 5, sees it as a way to honor Donner and carry on a story that's close to his heart. "I'm going to direct the 5th film in the Lethal Weapon series. Richard Donner, who directed the other 4, sadly passed away, and he was a good friend. He kind of tasked me with carrying the flag on that one, so it'll be an honor for me to do that," Gibson shared. He went on to explain that Donner had already made progress on the screenplay before his death, and they've built upon that work, with Gibson feeling happy about the direction it's going. The Lethal Weapon series, which kicked off in 1987 with Gibson as Martin Riggs and Danny Glover as Roger Murtaugh, has become a beloved action franchise, grossing over $900 million worldwide. While plot details for the 5th movie are still unknown, Gibson's comments suggest that Lethal Weapon 5 will stay true to the franchise's roots, promising more fun for fans. Stay tuned to Collider for updates. While it's great that Lethal Weapon 5 is coming, there are a few things the movie should keep in mind if it doesn't want to end up as just another failed reboot. Sure, Lethal Weapon 5 is just the latest in a long list of 80s franchise comebacks, but it has a chance to learn from the mistakes of those that came before it. Hollywood loves a good 80s throwback, and this nostalgia trend has been going strong since 2013, when the Goldbergs started looking back at the Reagan and Thatcher era. Then Stranger Things came along, followed by a wave of reboots and reimaginings of old 80s classics. If anyone doubted that 80s nostalgia was still a big deal, Top Gun Maverick proved it in 2023 with its massive box office success. So it's no surprise that even after the Lethal Weapon TV show got canceled, Lethal Weapon 5 was announced. Originally planned to be directed by Richard Donner before his passing, the film will now be directed by Mel Gibson. While Gibson's got an impressive record as a director, his history with public controversies like racism, misogyny, and anti-Semitism could hurt the movie's chances. One thing Lethal Weapon 5 needs to avoid is repeating Die Hard's biggest mistake with its sequels. The heroes in the Lethal Weapon movies, Riggs and Murtaugh, have survived their fair share of chaos, but that can only go so far. Murtaugh's been talking about his age since the 2nd movie, and now, decades later, they can't be completely invincible. If they try to make them indestructible in Lethal Weapon 5, it might end up feeling like the later Die Hard movies, where the action got so over the top that it was hard to watch. At this point, for the Lethal Weapon series to feel grounded, they need to show that Riggs and Murtaugh have limits, especially considering their ages, 76 and 67 respectively. They can't just shrug off everything like they did in the past. Another pitfall to avoid is the Predator's problem. While it's pretty easy to steer clear of the problems in Rambo: Last Blood, the Predator shows a more complicated issue for sequels. Despite having tons of action, the movie lacked heart, which is something Lethal Weapon 5 definitely doesn't want to repeat. The biggest issues with The Predator were its confusing editing and underlit action scenes that made it hard to care about what was happening. But beyond the technical flaws, the movie felt unnecessary, and it didn't address important story points or characters, leaving it feeling unfinished. Lethal Weapon 5 can't afford to make the same mistake. If it feels like a movie that didn't need to be made, it could really flop. Lastly, Lethal Weapon 5 needs to be careful not to make the same mistakes as Rambo: Last Blood did with its storyline. Like most action movies, Lethal Weapon 5 will probably have Riggs and Murtaugh going after criminals, but it's important to be thoughtful about how it handles its villains. Rambo: Last Blood made the mistake of using harmful stereotypes, particularly with its depiction of Mexican villains trafficking women, which got a lot of backlash. Lethal Weapon 5 needs to avoid that kind of tone-deaf storytelling. The second movie did a good job handling sensitive issues like apartheid, so Lethal Weapon 5 should take a similar approach and steer clear of anything that feels xenophobic or out of touch. Given the 25-year gap since Lethal Weapon 4, it seems like a no-brainer to have Lethal Weapon 5 introduce the now adult kids of Riggs and Murtaugh as the new leads. By the end of the last film, Riggs has a son and Murtaugh was a grandfather. Now that so much time has passed, it would make sense to bring in those grown-up kids to carry on the legacy of their dads. Plus, after all these years, it's hard to deny that the original Murtaugh really is too old for this S, just like he said in the first films. On the flip side, some people think that killing off Martin Riggs in Lethal Weapon 5 might be the easiest way to fix the series, but it's not as simple as it sounds. Mel Gibson, who's returning to direct the sequel after the passing of Richard Donner, said that filming would likely start in 2023. However, the franchise has some serious hurdles to jump. Gibson's past comments, including racist, misogynistic, anti-Semitic, and homophobic remarks, have turned a lot of people off from his work. Plus, his role in Dragged Across Concrete, where he played a corrupt, prejudiced cop, didn't help his image. It might seem like killing off Riggs could be a way to avoid the controversy, but that wouldn't really work for Lethal Weapon 5. Although Shane Black's script for Lethal Weapon 2 had Riggs die, and the TV show did something similar when Clayne Crawford was fired, Lethal Weapon 5 can't follow that path. The reason fans are still excited for a fifth movie is because of the iconic chemistry between Gibson's Riggs and Danny Glover's Murtaugh. If Riggs were killed off, it would ruin the heart of the series. The magic of Lethal Weapon comes from those two together, and that's what people want to see again. While Lethal Weapon 2 might have been able to continue without Riggs, the series has seen a dip in reputation since then. Lethal Weapon 3 was underwhelming, and Lethal Weapon 4 has been criticized for its outdated humor and racism. So if Lethal Weapon 5 wants to get audiences excited again, it needs both Riggs and Murtaugh. Without them, the franchise risks losing its core appeal. And that's that for today's video, folks. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more amazing content. Also, don't forget to comment below and let us know which things impressed you the most. Do you think Lethal Weapon 5 can succeed without killing off Riggs, or would that just be a mistake? And as always, your suggestions for future videos are always welcome in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.